You're listening to Make Today Count podcast. I'm Jessica Morari, certified life and career coach, and I will be your host. If you're ready to think better, choose better, and act even when it's messy, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's make today count. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to a new episode of Make Today Count. Today I come with something which is very much talked about, but very rarely I see it into action when I talk to people, when I work with my clients or collaborate with corporate teams, which is values. We love talking about values. We say that we know our values with a big mouth, but do we really? The point is that you can talk about values, you can think you have them identified and clear in your mind. But then when you stop and really take a knowledge of your life, of your decisions, and of your own definition of success, the house of cards falls. And you realize that maybe there is a bit of work to do in this sense. And that's what we're going to explore today. Before you roll your eyes and think, yes, values, I've done the exercise once, I wrote a list somewhere, stay with me for a second. First of all, because you already know that I sometimes bring topics that are discussed by other people, but I'm here to share a different perspective and keeping it practical. And second, because, okay, let's assume you've already done your list once. When was that? Have you checked it again? Have you made sure anything has changed, shifted, or needs an upgrade? The place where I get the most itchy when we talk about values is when I do corporate workshops. Usually before I lead any workshop, I go and research the company, and of course I check the website to check the values. Well, I don't think you'd be surprised if I told you that what's on company's website don't always match what's the actual reality of the day-to-day work. I feel that most of the times we treat values like a branding exercise. It's very common in companies. We do it as business owners and entrepreneurs. We do exercise to understand our values and our business better. But what about the rest? How often as humans do we do a check on our values to make sure we're going in the direction we want and that we align everything around it? I made an experiment and asked 25 random people which were their values. It was a bit awkward because, again, we're not used to talk about stuff like this, but it was worth it to prove my point. They all kind of picked the same words. Nice ones, I'd say. They chose integrity, freedom, growth, connection, love, family, which they all sound good, and they probably make you feel like you've done the work and you're living by it. But values are not what you say to a stranger who's trying to prove her point, or even what you say in a workshop with me. You really see your values in how you show up in life, in everyday little choices, in the decisions that you make for your present and for your futures. And sometimes what you say your values are and what you live by don't match at all. I know I'm going in full blast, which is clearly a topic that I care about a lot. So let's slow down a bit, because before we understand why we need values and how to identify them, we need to clarify what are values for real. And this time I'm going to strip down all the polished language. So I'll take no dictionary today, because values are what you care about. They're what matters to you. It's that simple. They are the reason you say yes to certain things and no to others. They're behind what you tolerate and what you prioritize, what you keep coming back to. They show up in your calendar, in your bank account, your relationships, your habits. It's how you show up in the world. And this is why they matter more than people think. Whether you're aware of them or not, they are already running the show. You don't get to opt out of having values. You only get to be conscious of them or not. And when you are unconscious of them, or you don't give them the importance they deserve, and you live a life that is not aligned with them, that's when you have life crisis. That's when you have burnout. That's when you wake up in the middle of the night sweating like a pig because you feel you're suffocating. In a previous episode, we have already talked about how creating your own definition of success is important to live a happy and fulfilling life. And it really helps you avoid ending up on a deathbed full of regrets and lost opportunities. So the first step to start building your own definition of success and understanding if and where your life needs a bit of realignment is for sure to do a value checkup. The way I like to think about values is this. And of course, it's a metaphor. You know, I love metaphors. Think of yourself as a house with walls and rooms and furniture, decoration, the garden, everything that you like in a house. You are that house. Now, that house won't always be perfect. You will need to change furniture. You need to paint because maybe the paint start to peel off. There can be storms, there can be flooding, there can be mold that can come out from the walls. There can even be hurricane that tears the house down. And you know what will always stand? The foundations. The foundation of your house represent your values. That's what stands still and never shakes no matter what happens. That's the part of most people don't see, but it holds everything up. When things are not going well, when things are messy, when there's pressure, when there's uncertainty, that foundation is what keeps the house standing. No matter what happens, having strong foundations will guarantee you a place to always come back to. Now imagine building a house on sand. It might look fine on the outside for a while. You can decorate it, make it nice, make it impressive, invite people in, pretend that things are fantastic until the weather changes. And then cracks start to show, and then the drama comes. That's the same thing that happens when you have no values, or as I said before, that's what happens when you leave without any alignment with your values, when you're not aware of them. Things feel off, and probably you don't even know exactly why, but something isn't sitting right. That's what it feels like to live out of alignment with your values. So you live your life in this kind of delulu, pretending you're feeling amazing, pretending that you're having fun and achieving what you want, while every 2 days you have to run to the bathroom to cry for how sorry you feel for yourself. And this is what I see all the time. Now, I'm not saying this from a place of judgment. I think we're past that by now. But I say this from a place of empathy because I have lived these on my own flesh and blood. I was the successful one running to the bathroom and pretending I was not having a meltdown in the middle of a day with 2,000 guests and 200 staff waiting for me outside. I see these all the time. People chasing goals that don't actually belong to them. I see people saying yes to opportunities that look good on paper, but they feel really heavy for the person in real life. And on the contrary, I see people staying in situations because they should, even when everything in their body is screaming and saying otherwise. And we have been taught that that's a matter of discipline, of motivation and confidence. Sometimes no, my friend. Sometimes you're just ignoring brutally the truth that you're not listening and paying attention to what matters to you. So the real question here is not if you have values. Of course you have. We all have it. The question is how aware of them you are and if you're actually making your decisions based on those. When I talk about decisions, I'm not only talking about if you take a job or not, if you get married or have a kid or to move to the other side of the world. Those are big choices, and those are usually the moments when, ironically, we kind of feel the need to resort to our values because the decision is so big that we feel we have to. We have no other option because that will help us make the right choice. What's interesting is to see how aligned to your values you are during your daily life. We talked about values and we talk about habits. In which way are you ignoring your values with your habits and your routines? How much of your routines reflect your values and what you stand and care for? There is always something that strikes me very much, and it's the fact that I can make a huge life choice in less than a few hours. It took me one afternoon to decide I wanted to move to Spain for my master's degree. It took me one afternoon tea to make the decision to come to Dubai. And it took me much less to quit a job that was making me feel miserable. However, if I have to make a pretty petty choice, like deciding what to have for lunch or on a delivery app or picking a series on Netflix or I don't know, anything relatively small and insignificant that I need to decide about on a daily basis, well, I really struggle. People, when I say I mean it. I can feel so overwhelmed by simply looking at the menu that has more than 3 pages. So why is that? Why I feel so confident and comfortable in making big and impactful decisions, and I feel so lost when I have to pick the color of a blouse or I need to choose a restaurant for dinner. The answer is that usually when I have to make a choice on a petty thing, I do not rely on values. I simply decide based on what I feel in that moment, or on the vibe, on the mood, on how I feel. And on the contrary, for a big decision, the choice always seems so easy because I know what matters to me. I have a deep and profound connection to what I value the most. And I'm so grounded in that. I'm so grounded in my values that there is absolutely no doubt about what's the best choice for me. So this is the other reason of why values are so important, and being aware of them can basically help you make big decisions in the easiest and fastest way. They act as a compass. They are there to remind you where's the north, what you care about. And when you feel lost, when you feel overwhelmed, or when you have no idea of which direction to take, they are there. They act as a code of conduct for basically any situation. There is an exercise that I love doing with my clients, which I call the manifesto, which is simply the collection of values explained with the meaning that you give to them and kind of represent your code of conduct. And what is nice about this is that you can have a cute design version of it, so you can make it nice and visual and make it in different sizes and formats. And you can bring it with you as a reminder and come back to it anytime that you feel the need to ground yourself again. So up until now, we have seen what is the value, something we care about, something we stand for and live by. And we have also seen why they matter, because they are the foundation of who we are. And they are our compass, and they bring us back to what matters when we need it most. I guess that now it's time to actually understand how to identify them and what to do with that awareness. This is the part during my workshops where people actually start doing things. Well, actually, during my workshop, people do things kind of always. I like to keep things practical. So I want to give them tools they can keep using after the session every time they need. Identifying your values is quite simple, and you have many ways of doing it. But I'm going to suggest the one that I prefer. So it's very simple. You can start from a list of common values and go through them. And every time you find something that resonates, you circle the word, or you highlight it, or you put a symbol next to it, whatever you prefer. There are many lists of values. You can look for it on Google. You can ask ChatGPT to draft one, and there are so many versions. I have created mine, which contains some things over 120 items, I think. So I believe it's quite comprehensive, and I'm a good girl, so I have left you in the link in the description if you want to download and print this exercise. Actually, I'm going to give you access to the whole workbook that I use during my signature workshops, so you can do all the exercises in there. As I said, you start going through the list and you pick what resonates and what feels close to you. When you do this, I want you to be very honest, brutally honest, and constantly ask yourself if you're picking that word because that matters to you for real or because you think you should value it. Maybe you always say that family matters to you, but actually you value freedom or ambition much more. But because you're afraid of being judged, then you always end up saying family, even if it's not what you value the most. So really, no judgment. Let all the labels out. Feel completely free to be who you really want to be when you do this exercise. That's the whole point, to get to know yourself better and to show up as you are. now that you've done a first round, I want you to start progressively to reduce the number of values until you get to your winners, the values that you value the most. I suggest you pick between 3 and 5 and no more than that. That doesn't mean that you don't care about all the rest. It simply means that those values are your top priorities in this moment. So once you have your top 3 or top 5, I want you to classify them. These will help you because if at some point you have any clash between these top values, then you need to prioritize one of them. And knowing which one matters to you the most makes it less confusing. Now, here comes my favorite part, because usually people stop here. So when they have identified their values, they close the notebook and go on with their life. No, my friend, we're not doing that. We have already seen in previous episodes that awareness is only the first step and that we need action. So what we're going to do now is to take action. So in the workbook, you will find a series of questions that will help you understand how much of your present decisions, actions, behavior, everything, how much of that is aligned with each value and how you can actually leave more value. At the end of the exercise, you will identify at least 3 actions that you can take right now to already start living in a much more aligned way. I know I have used the word aligned a lot in this episode, but the whole point is that there needs to be a coherence between what we feel we care about and what we actually do to translate that value into reality. We often think that to change your life, you need to revolutionize everything. We always imagine these dramatic and massive transformations from one day to another. Very radical, which is fine if that's what you want and need. But I can tell you, after hundreds of hours of coaching, that the biggest transformations really start from tiny steps. They start from the actions that you take every day, and they can look insignificant, but they have this compound effect. My friend, I hope you were able to take away something useful and that you can start applying right away. If you want to go deeper into these and actually do the work, you will find the full workbook in the description of this episode. It's the same one I use in my workshops. So you'll find all the exercise to help you identify your values and, most importantly, understand how to actually live by them. Take your time with it, don't rush, and we've already said it, be honest. This is not something you're doing for anyone else, but you're doing it for yourself. That's all I have for you for today. I will see you next week with a new episode. And remember, make today count. Hi there! Every month I open a limited number of discovery sessions for those who want to start working with me. If you want to see if we're a good fit or you just want to check and see which are my services and how I can help you, please go in the link in the description and let's have a chat. Ciao!